This is a day of accountability, as the courts stamped their authority and ordered the government to compensate 4 victims of the 2007-2008 post-election violence with up to 16 million shillings, more than 13 years since those atrocities were committed against them. 7 years since they filed their petition at the High Court, they have won what is now seen as a landmark ruling and precedent setting for thousands of victims who suffered either in the hands of police officers or fellow citizens in the aftermath of a hotly contested election.
Justice Weldon Correll delivered the judgment in a case that had attracted 8 petitioners who claimed to be victims of sex and gender-based violence. They were 6 women and 2 men who endured rape, sodomy, forced circumcision, among other torturous abuses. 4 of the victims, all women, succeeding in convincing the court to rule in their favor and thus awarded them 4 million shillings each. 3 of the women told the court that they were raped by GSU officers as police were deployed to quell the post-election violence in the period 2007-2008. One of the 3 women had reported the matter to the police, while the other 2 had not. But the 2 convinced the court that they remember seeing their oppressors in police uniform. The 4th successful petitioner, a woman who was raped by 3 members of the public in Nairobi. She reported the incident at the Kilimani police station, who subsequently arrested only one of the culprits, who died in custody. But the police failed to pursue the other 2 offenders, despite the victim identifying them and even providing details of where the police would find them. Justice Correll finding that, quote, "This is a prime example of how the state can be liable for the violation of right by third parties, as once the petitioner reported the rape, the police had a duty to investigate her claim and protect her from further harm." End of quote. 4 other petitioners failed to convince the court. They claimed to have been attacked by members of the public, complaining to the court that the state failed to protect them against the torturous events. Justice Correll finding that, quote, "They have failed to show that the police failed to exercise reasonable diligence in the circumstances of the individual cases." End of quote. The judgment is among first wins of victims of the post-election violence, 4 years since the first attempt to prosecute suspects of the post-election violence flopped at the International Criminal Court when cases against President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto and 4 other suspects collapsed on lack of sufficient evidence. The victims were backed by a coalition of non-governmental organizations, including the Independent Medical Legal Unit, ICJ Kenya, and Physicians for Human Rights. The 8 victims were seeking compensation against the Attorney General, the Inspector General. The other respondents were the DPP, IPOA, and Health Cabinet Secretary for failed emergency treatment when they were attacked. The Attorney General and the Inspector General have been required to compensate the 4 victims. Sam Gituku, Citizen TV, Nairobi.